Okay, so some of the things we talked about in the past, a little bit over Chanukah. We're trying to make a sikkum to understand, Taka, what is the idea of Shemen. We learned the whole week about Shemen, about oil, about ner. So what is Taka Shemen? What is Shemen? What's the special quality about Shemen? Okay. So in general, we find something interesting, that every Yom Tov seems to be connected with another type of liquid, with another mashka. That the Yom Tovim are connected to certain mashkois. For example, Sukkot is clearly connected with mayim. It's nidin ala mayim, is nisach mayim. Shatamayim Besosin, you start to ask for Masha Rachmai Geshem. It's clearly connected to water. Purim and also Pesach. Purim and Pesach are connected to each other. We know that Nismach Gula Legula. I think Gemara says that Zayin Adar, that Moshe Rabbeinu was born. So Rashi says because he made Purim the Pesach, which means that the Gula started then. So it's clearly connected to Yain. A person has to drink dafka wine on Purim.
Also, Pesach might be blood.
Yeah, Pesach is with blood, correct, that's correct. And dafka psume is something that you drink that makes your face red, so it has to do with dafka yain, mishnah yain, to commemorate the mishnah yain of Achashverosh, mishnah Shavuos. And Shavuos, exactly, and Shavuos is clearly connected with chalav. Today, people don't drink necessarily chalav, but the truth is the makir, people eat cheesecake on Shavuos. It's a very strong minhag Yisrael to eat cheesecake. But the truth is that the makir to drink, to have milk on Shavuos comes from the earlier Rishonim. And the makir comes from chalav dvash tachas l'shoincha. That's what the Rishonim bring down. That's the source of drinking milk on Shavuos. And originally, Taka, they used to have like some milk with some honey. That was the dish that they used to eat on Shavuos, and eventually evolved into cheese and gvina and cheesecakes. But this is clearly connected to Yom Tov is connected. So what's Chanukah? Chanukah is connected to Shemen. Chanukah is connected to Shemen. Of course, Rashana with honey, correct? Yeah. Okay, we got all the different liquids. Yeah, of course, can be connected with liquid. Yeah. So, Chanukah is clearly connected to Shemen. The miracle happened with Shemen, and even though you can light with all different types of wicks and psilas, and Shaiva or Shemen, the Gemara says, that Rabbi says that Shemen is solid Nehura, that Rabbi used to originally light with Shemen Sumsumim, he used to light with sesame oil, but then eventually he started lighting with Shemen's ice, because at first he thought that Mashach Nehura, it lasts longer, but then he realized, no, it's better to have a clear flame. I brought down yesterday from Shemen Darka Moshe, the Rambam brings down, the Shemen Rabbeinu Peretz, actually that the reason to be Mahader, also to Dafka use Shemen in your menorah is because the miracle actually happened with Shemen. Shemen's eyes, the miracle happened with olive oil, so therefore it would make sense to use olive oil. Now, amongst the different types of liquid, we find the Chazal, which is some of the Karis that we talked about, we find the Chazal that Dafka, Yayin, Chalav, and Shemen have special qualities, right? L'mashal, we learned in the Gemara in Brachas talks about that for grapes you have to make Permeates, but when you squeeze the grapes and you make it into wine, it becomes a davar chashuv. It has a special quality to it, and it has a separate bracha, right? And you make a separate bracha. The Gemara asked the question, so maybe you should do the same thing also with Shemen. In other words, with Zayis and make a Permeates, the Gemara brachas Lamed says maybe you should do the same thing also with Shemen. The Gemara says because it's not zon, it's not satisfying. Then the Gemara says The Gemara says it is actually satisfying. The Gemara says it's not severe. You can be satisfied from eating shemen, and that's la halacha. La halacha, the Gemara says that if you drink, or yes, if you toivel, if you take bread and dip it into the shemen, of course you have to make the bracha on the ikar, and that's the tafel. You make the bracha on the bread. But if you drink shemen together with like some type of beets, that you make a certain type of drink, and you do it like a borscht, yes, exactly, and you put in some shemen, so the Gemara says over there, then you have to make a Permeates. But if you drink it plain, the Gemara says that it's mazik. It's unhealthy and it's harmful to eat it. La halacha, the Rambam in Hilchos Brachos Perches rules that if you shoyse shemen and shlokus, if you drink it like with some type of cooked vegetables, you actually make a Permeates. And if you drink it alone, the Rambam actually says that you make a shahakal. This is a chiddush of the Rambam. La halacha, the Rif, the Rosh, and the Mechaber all rule that if you just drink shemen on its own, it's unhealthy. You saw in the tshuva they bring down from Rabbi Yomer, Rabbi Yosef, they asked him that today some people like to drink shemen if it can be, if it's considered, I don't know who drinks shemen, I guess it's an issue. Some people, maybe Sephardim, are drinking shemen. And he says, no, the Shulchan Aruch rules in Simon Reish Beis, you don't do it, it's unhealthy and it's mazik, and therefore you shouldn't make a bracha. And he brings down from the Rambam that the Rambam actually holds that it's also mazik. In Hilchos Trumas, the Rambam says that if you drink shemen, you only have to pay the keren, not the chomesh. So the Kef's Mishnah says because you only have to pay the actual value because he didn't have any hana. So, but we see that shemen, there's a havamin in the Gemara, there's a thought in the Gemara that shemen has a special quality. It's not just regular juice that you take an apple and you squeeze the apple and you get apple juice, but shemen has a special chshivus, something special about it.
So every other juice is shahakal.
Yeah, but it's shahakal, correct. Because it doesn't have it's not more chashiv. In fact, it's less chashiv than the thing itself. Over here, like by Geffen, it says it's davar chashiv. So the Gemara thought maybe also shemen is davar chashiv. He says no, because lo masid, you can't make a suda, you can't have real hana from shemen. So we actually, if you mix it with a type of borscht, then you have to make a Permeates. But if not, then you'll actually just not make a bracha. According to Shulchan Aruch, according to Rama, you would make a bracha. But this is davar chashiv. This is one place where we find the chshivus of shemen.
How come it didn't get its own bracha like Yanyan?
So the Gemara has the Shiur. And that the Maskana is the Gemara because it's loy masid. It doesn't have. It's not a sud. You can't give satisfaction to it. You can't be satiated by drinking shemen. And the Gemara says about wine, you could. It depends how much you drink. If you drink a little bit, it opens you. It's not satiating. If you drink a lot, you could be satiated. And that's the conclusion of the Gemara. But we see that shemen has Chazal and the Sud. That shemen has a special quality. We see also in the more famous sugya where the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, in the Lamed, the Gemara talks about the famous sugya about chalav in Israel. The Gemara talks about chalav akum, bishul akum, pas akum, pas Yisrael. The Gemara talks about that whole sugya. And the Gemara says different things have different qualities. For example, yayin clearly has yayin esach, and then the stam yayin. Yayin has special qualities. Even if stam yayin, if you have just plain wine from a non-Jew, that already has a certain quality. Milk also. Chol shein Yisrael or Eyu, there's an issue. There has to be a Yisrael or Eyu. There actually has to be a Jew seeing the chalav while it's processed. While it's processed, okay, this is already halachically. There's issues if it's mirsis, if there's fear, and if there's yotz of nichtas, you know that it's for sure ki'ilu. Mirsis is like mirsis means that the guy will not do it, so it's as if the Jew is seeing it. But clearly, there's some type of an energetic quality to milk, like wine. It's nothing to do with apple juice. It's not to do. Now, generally, the reason why we don't have, let's say, we don't eat bishul akum, for example, is either because we're afraid something's going to be mixed into it, like the non-kosher food is going to be mixed into it, or mishum chasnas, more the issue of like friend relationships that can lead to marriage, can lead to some type of real relationships. So then that has to be davar chashiv, something that's like something that has value. I don't want to talk about this at all. I just want to say that the Gemara says that l'chatchila also shemen, oil was considered part of the gzer, and the Gemara goes into a diyun. The Gemara wants to understand what exactly when the Shemen was Aser? Apparently, the Gemara says that it was Daniel originally that made an Isur, a prohibition of using Shemen that belonged to a non-Jew, and you're not allowed to use the Shemen. And then the Gemara says that he only did it just the ear. Chazal, the Talmidim, B'Shalom Beis Hillel, were one of the Yud Ches Dvarim that they were metakin, were also they established that even Besada, anywhere you're not allowed to. And then the Gemara concludes that the Mishnah says that Rabbi Beis Dinoi, that Rabbi and his court already were matir and allowed that Shemen there's no Isser. You can buy Shemen, olive oil, so long as we know it's kosher, 100% kosher, and it doesn't matter where it comes from and who produced it. There's no Isser. And the Gemara says because it was Exer Shleichol Amid Boy, and it was a Exer that people did not accept upon themselves, and it was not Nespashet. It wasn't Nespashet. People weren't following this custom, so therefore, even though Rabbi was a smaller bezdin than the bezdin of the Talmid B'Shalom Beis Hillel and Daniel, still it wasn't as great. Still, he abolished that thing. But we see that there's something about oil, that dafka oil. It's not that there's a quality of oil that gives us a certain chashivus that makes it more important. Now, chashivus kavod it's a davar chashuv. It's an important thing. It's a worthy thing, and it also has an idea of kavod, that has kavod. Honor, respect. I don't know if you can't call oil respect, but there's a pasuk in Tanakh, in Shoftim. In Tanakh, there's a story about Gidon, one of the Shoftim Yisrael, and then Gidon passes on, and his son, he has a son from a Pelegish that's called Avimelech. This son is not such a good character. He eventually kills off 70 of his brothers that are the sons of Gideon. Gideon had a very large family. And only one son survives, Yosam, who is the youngest son. The story in Tanakh is, and this is where there's some famous psukim that's brought down with regards to wine and to Shemen, is that Yosef runs to the hills of Hebron, and this is where Avimelech is king, and he sings a poem. And in the poem he says that the trees decided to anoint a king to them, and they came first to the Eitz Hazayis. They came to the olive tree, and they said, you should become the king over us. The Zayis says, should I let go of my fattiness? Which through me, there's kavod, there's honor to man and God. I would rather be not a king. I would rather do my own thing and give honor to man, Elikim v'anashim. The same few psukim later says he comes to the tears, comes to the wine, and the wine says Samech Elikim v'anashim. That wine gives joy to Elikim v'anashim. So we see that Shemen is connected somehow to the idea of kavod. Now, we want to understand what is this kavod of Shemen. What's the kavod of Shemen? What does Shemen represent? What's the honor of Shemen? The chshivus of Shemen? What is Shemen? What's Shemen? You take an olive, you squeeze it, you have Shemen. What's marash? What does it represent? Okay, so we'll see. But that's already that's neveah from that. You have kingship because of that. But why is Shemen lechatchila chosen? Yeah. No, we don't. It's not discussed Vash over here. What do you mean? And where?
Meaning with the Vash of what you mean? Any of it.
Oh, so yeah, Dvash is Dvash Teina or Dvash in general, honey in general. Honey is discussed in Chazal because honey has a lot of interesting. Honey comes from a non-kosher animal, so you're getting honey from a non-kosher animal. Generally, something comes from the pure animal is pure. So it's a very strange idea that we actually use honey, even though the animal itself is not. So it's not.
Like in the 7 species, isn't Vash? It's like.
Yeah, it's one of them. Yeah, it's Vashtena.
So really, what I was asking is because it seems like Geffen has some connection. Right? We say it after Bracha on Geffen because it's a special.
Oh, you're saying because it's one of the Shiva Minim?
Yeah. So do they?
Interesting. No, not that I don't know. I don't think so. But it's interesting. Maybe the process is much easier to make. Maybe the dvash actually, the dvash of a teina just... Teina. Yeah. Right, it's them. I'm saying it could be... No, but it could be that's why the process is easy. Maybe just it leaks from the teina itself. I'm not... it is one of the seven. But the question is how dvash is made. The process of making olives seems to be like an involved process. You have to go squeeze the olives. It's like a process. It could be it leaks like this dvash. The teina leaks this dvash. Yeah, it's oil. Yeah, you have to squeeze it out. Yeah.
In halacha, if you have grapes and olives, the olives you have to make the bracha first because it's closer to the eretz.
Yes,
Actually, Greg Hashivas.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the dvash itself. That's inside the bracha because it's kol hakodim in the pasuk is kodim bracha. That's a different thing.
Even though it's later.
Yeah, correct. Okay, let's go back to Chanukah. Maybe it will help us understand the connection over here. Okay, so the nes of Chanukah happens with Shemen. Okay, this is a conceptual shiloh. The nes happens with Shemen. So they find the menorah happens with Shemen. The question is a theoretical question. If the whole purpose of the nes was one major understanding of the nes is there's a famous question is that the Pnei Yehoshua asked the question is Tumah Hutter B'Tzibur. Technically, they could have lit the menorah B'Tumah. Because Tumah Hutter B'Tzibur, they could have been Tumah and it's fine. It's not a problem. So why do they need Torah? So the Pnei Yehoshua says because it's only to show Chibah Shel Yisrael. Really, they could have done Metumah, so it's like an extra show of honor to Klal Yisrael. So the truth is, there was nothing about the menorah per se, apparently, but it was Haris Chibah Shel Yisrael. So the question could be a theoretical question. They could have also the miracle, something miraculous could have happened with the Mizbeach. There was Eish Rotzutza Arya. There was in the Beis Hamikdash. There was the fire on top of the Beis Hamikdash looked like a lion, sometimes like a dog or a lion, depends on how you saw the situation. There was something miraculous. The lechem upon him lasted for a week. Maybe they found fresh bread. Just give me a question: why dafka oil and why dafka menorah? Why is the miracle shown dafka with oil and dafka with the menorah? It could have been shown with the lechem upon him, with the mizbeach. I mean, if something had to happen, why did dafka happen with oil and dafka with the menorah? Now, one of the famous questions of the Beis Yosef says that they found oil that could have lasted for 1 day. So, l'chur, there's only a nest for 7 days, not 8 days. So, one of the answers was that they divided into eighths, and each day a little bit oil lasted, which means that a little bit of kamos of oil lasted for a full night. So, again, conceptually, the shaila can be like this. We learned in the Gemara. The Gemara says the story. The Gemara in Tainis Chafei says the story. What happens is that his daughter is sad, is upset. Why? She sees his daughter upset at Shabbos, and she says, "Why are you upset?" So she says, "Because I mistook. Instead of lighting the candles with Shemen, I ended up lighting it with chometz, with vinegar." And what's the problem with vinegar? The problem with vinegar is that it doesn't last long. It's going to go out very quickly. So Rachanim said, the same Hashem who said that the Shemen should be madlik, you can use Shemen also. So what happened? A miracle occurred, and that lamp lasted till Havdalah. That's what the Gemara says, which means a small amount of chometz, which means chometz really can only burn for, let's say, a half hour. Instead, it burns for 24 hours. So really, that's what really happened with the oil anyways. What happened with the oil? The oil was a small amount of oil. Instead of burning for an hour, ended up burning for 12 hours throughout the entire night. Okay, so if you're already making a miracle, again, conceptually the shaila is, if you're already making the miracle that a small amount of liquid that can only burn for 1 hour burns 12 hours, so you couldn't use chometz. So I have another miracle that happened. They went into the Beis Hamikdash, they found no oil, and instead of finding no oil, they took chometz, and they said, listen, there's no oil, there's chometz. We'll put chometz in it, and a miracle happened. Instead of lasting for 5 minutes, it burned all night. Okay, so why dafka in Shemen? Yeah. one of the answers also given is that it filled up. Every morning it burned out, and then it filled up with another. The oil went down, and in the morning it filled up with new oil. This is another answer that's brought down to answer why there's 8-day miracles. And the famous question, Chaim Brisker asks the question on this is, as they say, is that it's not Shemen Zayis. The Torah says you have to be Shemen Zayis, real oil. The Shemen Zayis has to be natural olive oil. It's not natural oil. It's miraculous oil. It's chit b'shalom b'avim. You have it's not considered. You can't do a mitzvah on a nest. So it's not really it's not natural. So, anyways, if you're not talking about natural things, so chaymitz is also good. They could have found chaymitz, they could have found vinegar, they could have lit the vinegar, and it's also nisi, and we're back to square one. So, why taka is the nest dafka with shemen? Another question, which is a shayla that I asked whoever was here on Chanukah. That was the question, but it's a klotz kasha. The Gemara says like this. The Gemara says. The Gemara in Shabbos brings down from Masechah Soifrim. The Gemara says that the mitzvah of lighting Chanukah candles is mishatishka chama, from when the sun goes down, until the people leave the Talmud. Mishatishka chama. What's tishka chama when the sun goes down? So most poskim write, and this is what the Shulchan Aruch writes, and Magen Avraham writes, that means that tishka chama means when the sun goes down, which is tzeis hakachavim. That when you have to light the candles, you have to light the Tzeis HaChama. The Rambam learns, which is what Pashtas, Mishatishka Chama literally means when the sun goes down. When's the sun go down? Means right when the Shki is. Right when the Shki is, that's when you should light the candles. And that's Taka Minik Chabad, and Minik Meni Chassidim, to light the candles right by Shkia. So let's say the sun goes down at 4:30, that's when you light the candles, the middle of the day. L'kulei Alma, both according to, which remember we learned about Ben Hashmashas, the famous machlekes in the Goyim and Rabbeinu Tam, right? According to Rabbeinu Tam, it's still day for sure. That first shkia, it's still for another 50 minutes. It's still going to be day. Even according to the opinion of the Goyim, which is what the Alter Rebbe rules, it's still ben hashmashis. It's not 100% night. Okay. So when does Chanukah start? Chanukah starts Chaf Hei by night. When did you light the first candle on Chanukah? You can light the first Chanukah on the candle on what day? Chav Daled. Chav Daled by shkia, it's still Chav Daled. L'kul Alma, it's still Chav Daled. And when you're going to light the Chanukah candle on the first night of Chanukah, you're going to say, Ashek Hashem says, Lahadik Ner Chanukah, to light the night of Chanukah, but it's actually not Chanukah. Now, when you do that in Shabbos and Yom Tov, you can do that, right? You can light Lahadik Ner Shel Shabbos. Why? Because when you light the candles on Shabbos on Friday afternoon, because we kabel Shabbos on yourself, it's called Toisas Shabbos, and therefore it's already Shabbos for you. So you're allowed to light the candles. You're allowed to do also Toisas Yom Tov. You're allowed to do the same thing also and light the candles.
Why can't you be Mekabel Chanukah?
There's nothing to Mekabel Chanukah. Chanukah is not a Yom Tov that you can Mekabel. Mekabel means you Mekabel a Malacha, that you're not going to do Malacha. Chanukah you can't Mekabel. You can't Mekabel Chanukah before it's Chanukah. You can't Mekabel Purim before it's Purim. The only way you can Mekabel something is if something tells you that you're Mekabel yourself not to do something. You can't say, I want the Kedusha of Chanukah to fall on me. Who said so? If you want. Huh? You can't do that. Toisas Shabbos, Toisas Yom Tov, you say, because I'm prohibiting myself from doing this malacha, so therefore I do the loisa say, so therefore the essay comes, sort of the Kedusha follows the loisa say. There's nothing to makabel yourself on Chanukah, so you light the candles on Friday on Chav Daled. So the Ikka Shaila is like this. It's also a klotz kasha.
Why, according to the Meiri, then it's something.
Yeah, forget about the Meiri. So then Meiri you'll do the day before. That's another Shaila. And the Meiri is only because the Laila Achar Yom. The Shachyan is also a Shaila. But also Hadik Ner Chanukah. First of all, by Chanukah is Adlaka is a mitzvah, yeah? Kafel Leizakuk law. The mitzvah of Leir Chanukah is you have to light the candle. When do you have to light the candle? On Chanukah. So you make a Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Chashek Yishon Hadik Ner Chanukah, and it's actually not Chanukah. It's the day before Chanukah. And it's Shechiyah. This is a Klotz Kasha. I don't have a good teretz on Pid Nigla, so I'm gonna have to go a little bit deep and high. Anyways, let's go down to what Chazal tell us about Shemen. So we learn from the Midrashim. The Midrashim seem to say two interesting things about Shemen. One hand, Shemen is, we say that Shemen is mifafeya b'chol davar, right? And you just learned it today in Kudos Yom Shaltei. So Chassidus brings down the same, it's a Medrash, that the Medrash says mifafeya b'chol davar, that means Shemen seeps into everything. You ever got Shemen, you got oil on your garment, it seeps all into the garment. It's an oil spill, yeah? And it seeps everywhere. This is on one level. Usually with the davar yavish, something that's dry, it seeps all the way through. On the other hand, we say, and it's also brought down the Chazal, the Roshim, in Medrash Rabbah, in Bereshis, and Dvarim Rabbah, that Shemen is not Mas'arav in Chol HaMashkin. You mix Shemen with all the different mashkos, you mix Shemen with milk, you mix Shemen with... It's not Mas'arav. Not only it's not Mas'arav, but the Shemen is always Oilo L'mayla. So it's, on one hand you say Mefafeya B'chol Davar, which means that it seeps into everything, it gets everywhere. On the other hand you say that it's not Mas'arav, and not only is it not Mas'arav, I understand, one's Yavish and one's Lach. That's clear. I'm talking about the concept of Shemen. That this concept of Shemen, not practicality, of course it's not a steer, you can't say it's a steer in the Metzias, it's not saying that it's a steer in the Metzias. It's saying the concept of Shemen represents two things. We're saying on the one hand Shemen is Mafei B'chol Davar, means oil leaks and gets everywhere, seeps into everything. On the other hand, that we say about the Shemen, is that the Shemen is Oil L'mayla. Right? It's always Oil L'mayla. That's the Lashon that we have. Afilu atum Mis'ar B'chol HaMashkoim, Sheba Oil Hu Nosen L'mayla, Hu Nase Elyon Al Kulam. This is the Lashon of Chazal in Dvarim Rabbah Shmais Rabbah. So we have these two concepts of Shemen. We have that it seeps everywhere, which means that it penetrates everywhere, and the other hand, it stays removed and detached above. It's not an attachment that is completely outside the thing, but it's sort of not mechuber with the thing. And that's the Gemara that we have in Shabbos, so you learn and the Gemara in Shabbos Nafei, which talks about if you throw something in a svina, minach naich, and if it's anach, if you make anach on Shabbos, you throw something in a svina, or ego is agabay amayim. And then the Gemara brings on a machlokes between Rabbi and Nuri and Rabbanan, if a full yoim touches Shemen, and on top of, underneath on the Shemen there's another substance, Shemen agabay yayin, for example, and the Gemara wants to know if the yayin becomes tamei, which means they're literally one on top of the next. So the machlokes is it the chibur enough? And according to Rabban, it's not mischaber, because in other words, even though they're one on top of the next, it always remains a little bit detached. So you have on one hand a detachment of the Shemen, on the other hand something that's penetrating into the idea. Okay, this is the nature of Shemen, that it always stays removed a little bit. Now, where do we find Shemen in the Torah? Where's the first time that we have Shemen in the Torah? Where do we see Shemen? Yaakov Avinu. That where it says that Yitzchak Yaakov is Shemen al Roisha, that Yaakov takes the Evan and puts some Shemen on it. So the Radak, Rabbi Bechayr from Shemen Rasag, write that the reason why he did this was because Shemen stains, makes a Roishim. And therefore, when on the way back, he wants to know the place that he put this matzeva. When he comes back there to Sol, he'll say he's going to make a carbon on that place. The Rashbam writes that the reason why he does that is because kidei lekacha lahakiv karbanos b'shuvei lekacha, that he takes it because he wanted to make kedusha. He wanted to not sacretize. He wanted to sanctify. Yeah, he wanted to sanctify this stone. So the way he sanctified the stone was through Shemen. And that's the truth, is that we find that sanctification, kedusha, is actually, Shemen is used to sanctify objects and people, and we find this clearly in the Torah. The Torah talks about the Kli HaMikdash. That Moshe Rabbeinu took all the Kli HaMikdash, and this is not a mitzvah l'doros. This is only a mitzvah that Moshe did in the Midbar. But he in order to no, it's not sanctified, to
initiate.
No, not initiate, inaugurate. Consecrate, exactly. To consecrate. In order to consecrate this, the Kli HaMishkan, he had to pour Shemen HaMishkan. He poured this oil over these things, and the same thing also we have in La Halacha. This is even after Zman HaMidbar, the Kohen Gadol, the Kohenim, they used to have Meshichas Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol had Meshicha, and how do they do Meshicha? They would actually pour oil, and the Gemara says, and the Horace Gemara discusses how exactly they pour the oil, but it can be kif yivanis, like what we call today the number 10 in Latin, like an X. And Rashi and the Rambam actually draw out how they did it. They actually made an X on the Kohen's forehead, right over here. So the oil would drip, and they would make an X sign on the Kohen. That was the way that we had Meshichas Kohen Gadol. The same thing also you have Meshichas HaMelech. A melech has to be anointed through Shemen. If he's a melech in the lineage of Malchus David, then it's Shemen HaMishcha. If it's not Malchus Yisrael, then there's another type of Shemen. But the kohen, a melech has Meshicha. Or else it's a melech ben melech. If it's a melech ben melech, a king that's the son of a king doesn't need Meshicha, only if there's machlokes. But generally, a king and a priest and a kohen gadol needs Meshicha. What does Mashiach have to do with kahuna? What does Mashiach have to do with this whole idea? Because what is oil? The nature of shemen, the nature of oil is that it's oil l'mayla. It's a davar nifrad. It represents what kedusha is. Kedusha is havdalah. What is kedusha? Something that's sacred, something that's nevdal. It's kaddish, it's nifrad, it's nevdal. That the concept of shemen is something that touches something and still remains detached from it. And that's almost like the paradoxical nature of what we're trying to create in this thing. We're saying this thing there's an havdalah of this thing. This thing is consecrated to be separate, and yet it's also still mifafeya b'chol davar. It also will be very much related to everything that's coming after it. For example, the way the Rambam describes the way the lashon of the Rambam when he talks about the Shevet Levi, so in Hilchos Klei HaMikdash also, Klei HaMikdash and Hilchos Malachim Chamasayim is where the Rambam talks about Shemen HaMishcha with regards to Kohanim and to Malachim. That the Rambam says Zera Levi in Hilchos Klei HaMikdash Perik Beis Alach Aleph, Zera Levi Kulei Muvdal LaAvodas HaMikdash. That there's a havdalah, they're separated to serve in the Beis HaMikdash. And then the next parak, in Parak Daled, 2 parakim later, the Rambam writes that v'hakoyinim huvdol mekala Levim. So there's havdalah of the Levim, there's a separation of the Levim from all the Yisraelim, that they're separated, they're consecrated, they're the havdalah with Shemen, and then there's havdalah within the Levim itself, which is the Kohen, and then later the Kohen Gadol is even muvdol, even higher level of havdalah. The Rambam also writes, not in Hilchos Klei HaMikdash, he writes in the end of Hilchos Shmitas V'Yoivlos, the Rambam writes, a very famous Rambam, the Rambam writes that V'lama lo yizachar levi menachas eretz Yisrael ubiza im achav v'pnei shechuvdal la'avdadas Hashem. Because why don't they have a chelik in Eretz Yisrael? Because they were muvdal, they were separated, and they have to serve Hashem. So there's a havdalah. Then the Rambam continues, called ish v'ish, the truth is that every person could have that type of havdalah. So that on the one hand, the Shemen creates the concept of this thing that is consecrated, this thing is sacred, and this thing is separate and removed from reality. On the other hand, one other thing. This also, we find this same idea also with a Navi. So you have it with a Kohen Gadol, which is with a Kohen, with a Kohen Gadol. You have it with a Melech, and also you have the same idea with a Navi. A Navi is clearly connected to Shemen. We learned the story of Isha Hashunamis, which is Shemen, and what's their whole issue is she needs Shemen. And her husband, who was Avadia, was a Navi, and the Chazal say that he provided Shemen to the Navim. And when she came to ask for a miracle, the miracle was with Shemen. Somehow Shemen is connected specifically to Nevuah. B'derech Remez also Shemen is used to do sicha, not really annoying, but like smear your body or smear or sicha. It's like an isser. What?
One of the famous Gemara where it talks about one of the Tannaim said the question is how come you have such good health and you're living so long? He said because my mother used to.
Shmer. Yeah. Shmear. That's the best word. So and sicha, correct. And Sicha is connected with Yiska, Sacha, Ruach HaKodesh, is connected, linguistically, is connected with Ruach HaKodesh. It's interesting that Avraham Belafia, when he clearly believed that he was the Yerush of the Bnei Nevi'im, and his mahalach was to achieve Nevuah. So in Chai Elam Haba, he has a very interesting lashon when he says when a person experiences what he says is the highest level of Dveikus, which can be close to Nevuah, and a person has this deep meditative experience, mystical experience, he says, "V'yidama loy ki ilu moshchei kol gufloy miroisha araglov b'shemen hamishcha." That's mamash the lashon. That we actually feel that you're experienced as if you're being anointed from your head to your toe with Shemen HaMishcha, which means a certain sense of being clean, I guess, but also some type of transcendence, some type of Shemen HaMishcha. Yeah, he brings that pasuk with Nevi'im. Correct. So what's that? So we have the one hand is the Melech, the Kohen, the Navi is the idea of Meshicha, which is the idea of Havdalah, like Vayitzik is it's a separation. Yeah, right? And the same, also the idea of these people, of the Melech, or of the Navi, or of the Kohen, is actually not someone should be removed to be detached completely. On the contrary, the idea of the Melech is, in the language of the Rambam, the Melech is Liba Shal Yisrael. The king is actually the heart of Klal Yisrael. It's a person that's Havdalah. It actually is separated, but the tachlis of the Melech is to actually serve the people. In the language of Allah, lo yinu b'gasas ruach b'yisrael v'chabez al koi cotton v'yachas al koi cotton v'katane v'daber rakos. The whole idea is actually to be involved with the people. And the same thing goes with the kohen. The kohen, the lashon lekayin li. So there's two Rashis in Torah. One lekayin li means is lashon shrara, like anointed, like higher, but also is Lisharis. That the idea of the Kohen is actually Lisharis Yisrael, that they actually serve Klal Yisrael. So this is the two dimensions that we have with Shemen. That the Shemen aspect is, on one hand, it's Mafafeya B'chol Dover. One aspect is it's Oil L'mayla. It transcends, it elevates, always rises to the top, and it's almost like detached from everything below it. On the other hand, it actually seeps into everything else. And because of this dual nature of what Shemen represents, therefore, this taka, we have Meshichas HaKohen, and Meshichas HaMelech, and Meshichas HaNavi, is all together, all with this oil. They're the conduit. That's correct. They're the conduit, and therefore they're detached and involved. And that's the position of the Kohen, the Navi, and the Melech. That it's not this huvdulu that they're sitting on top of a mountain. They're huvdulu, but they're b'soicha am. Now let's go now to understand a little bit how this relates to Chanukah. Chanukah, which we spoke about also, but we're going to repeat this idea. Chanukah is, we know Chanukah is the number 8, right? Chanukah is connected to 8. Chashmonoi, Shemen, Shmoina, Shemen, there's all the words 8, connected to the number 8. What's 8? 8 generally is L'mayel Derech HaTeva. There's Derech HaTeva, there's the way of nature, Shivas Yimei HaBinyan. The cycles of time, cycles of Shana, cycles of Zman is always connected to the number 7. And then there's an idea of the 8th. Now generally, the 8th really comes after the 7. So you have a cycle of 7. Let's say you have the 7 days of Sukkot, and after the 7th day of Sukkot, you have Shemin Atzeres, which is the 8th. Or you have the cycle of Shavuos, which is the 7 weeks, 7 times 7. And then you have Matan Torah, which would be like the Bechina of 8, which is on Shavuos. So the 8 usually, for Pesach, correct. So that's why it's Chalamoid. So Chalamoid Pesach, the whole Zman is like a Chalamoid, the Ramban writes, and then finally you get to. So the idea of the 8th is the 7 that comes after the 8th. Then there's another type of 8. There's an 8th that doesn't come after the 7. There's an 8 that's connected to the number 1, the 8th that comes before the 7. Not 7 then 8, but 8 then 7. Chanukah connects to the Nekuda that comes before, that seeps into the 7. Just like the idea of the Shemen. The Shemen is Oila L'mayla, and it's Mafeya L'chol Davar. The Shemen rises above. Let's get to the point. The Shemen rises above and also seeps into all the others. The same thing also in the Nekuda of Chanukah. The concept of Chanukah is to connect ourselves to the Nekuda of the 8th that precedes creation, and through connecting to the 8th that precedes creation, to mamshech that oil, to draw down that light into the 7. What does that mean? What's that? No, Pesach is not the same way. Pesach has 7, right? 7 days. And then the 8th day, the Ramban, and it says also in the Zohar, really the 8th day of Pesach should have been Shavuos, should have been Matan Torah, like Shemin Atzeres. That's why it's both called Atzeres. It should have been Matan Torah. Just instead of having 7 days, it was elongated into 7 weeks. But really the 8th day of Pesach is Shavuos. So it's the 8th that comes after the 7. 7 is 7, Sheva, comes from the word savua, which we said before. Shemen is loy masid v'loy zon. Shemen doesn't have that quality of seveya. It's a different quality. That's correct. Shemen is connected with, exactly. Shemen is connected with Shmoina, and Shmoina is connected to 7, which is the language that it's fatty, right? That's what he says. The Chadalti is dishni. That's what he says. I don't only give him my dishni. So fatty represents something that's expanding outside of it. Soiveya is something that's satisfying for what it is. Dishni is already this fat. The shuman is something that's expanding outside of it. Now, what is the nekuda of the 8th that comes before the 7? The 1 that comes before the 7. Yeah, what's the nekuda of the 1 that comes before the 7? So we have the 7 days of the week. The 7 days of the week, which means the Bria. When does the Bria start? The Bria starts on Sunday, Yom Rishon. That's the Chalas HaBria. The beginning of the creation is on Yom Rishon. But we know that there's something that happens on Shabbos, on the time of Mincha. The time of Mincha, Erev Shabbos, is called Raivan Deraivan. It's called the desire of desire. Why is it called the Raivan Deraivan? Because really, if you want to create, it's like a regular person wants to create, right? Like we'll think about how we create. If you want to create something, in order to create, first you have a desire to create, you have an image of what you want to create, then you actually go and create it, right? You have an idea for what you want to write about, an idea of what you want to sing about, an idea of what you want to say, and then you actually go ahead and say it. So the desire to creation actually occurs in the nekuda of Shabbos that precedes creation. So Amalur b'nei Yisrael Shalom Shtei Shabbosos. Miyad Negolim Klal Yisrael will keep the Shabbosos. What does that mean? The 2 Shabbosos. There's 2 levels of Shabbos. There's a Shabbos that comes following the 6 days of the week, which is the normal cycle, 7, and then you have the 8th, which is L'mayla Derech HaTeva, and then you have the Shabbos that comes before creation, which is the concept of what the tachlis of creation. What is the purpose of creation? The purpose of creation is revealed in the nekuda that comes before the bria. This is Yechabdu Lakim V'Anoshim. This is the kavod. What's the kavod? The kavod is Kol Ma Shabara Kadosh Baruch Hu V'Lamei Lo Bara Elo L'Chvoidei. Everything that Hashem created in this world, Hashem created to reveal Hashem's kavod. So that's the tachlis of the creation. That's the kavanah of the creation. The dir b'tachtonim, that it should be a kavod shemaim, should be revealed kavod shemaim. So the tachlis of the kavanah, which is revealed in creation, is rooted in the nekuda, in the point that comes before the creation, which is the 1 that comes before the 7. So that's that nekuda. This nekuda is not a nekuda that's separate from the 7. It's not 1 that's detached from the 7. It's actually 1 that's noiveya and seeps into the 7. Right? It's the 1, the nekuda of the kavod, that labara l'chvoide that seeps into creation, into the 7. And this is really the machlokes between, the real argument between Yevonim, between the Greeks, and Chacham Yisrael and Chacham Ilmas. What's Chacham Yavin? Chacham Yavin is a Chachma of Shiva. That's why we also learned in the Makarios that it talks about the different Chachma, and it says the Chachma of the Greeks is divided into seven wisdoms of the world. Yeah, geometry, music, algebra, grammar. These are the seven sciences, the 7 wisdoms of the world. So there's one type of Chachma that comes from the Bria. In other words, you look at creation, you understand the nature of creation, and from creation, empirically, you deduce certain logic or certain understandings of how the world is created and what the purpose of this creation is. So the philosophy of creation emerges from the creation itself. From the Bria itself, from the Sheva, you come to a Seichel, to the Skala of what creation is. What? Oh, 1 second. What?
Art is also the same.
Art could be also natural philosophy. Exactly, it's natural philosophy. It's natural philosophy, and this is really Aristotelian philosophy more than the original Greek philosophers, because Aristotelian is more empirical. Whatever you see, this is what you see. This is what you believe in, and everything is a footnote to Aristotle. So this idea of the natural sciences, which is the understanding from the Bria itself. What is Chacham Yisrael? Chacham Yisrael says no. We have to start off. There is Sheva Chachmas. We're not saying there's no 7 Chachmas, and that's why we brought down from the Eimek David, and Siv writes that the Shiva Kana Menorah represents the seven wisdoms. But the 7 wisdom is predicated on a nekuda that comes before the wisdom. In other words, what we understand is that there's a nekuda, there's a shemen, there's something that's mafea, there's something that's oil l'mayla, there's something that's beyond, something that's transcendent, and that transcendent wisdom, that Torah Saliki, the divine wisdom, seeps itself into natural wisdom. So when you look at science, or you're studying grammar, you're studying philosophy, you're studying algebra, it's not just studying the natural science. You're studying the natural science the way it's an expression of the nekuda of the above, and that's the oimig machlokes between the Greeks and between the Greeks and Chacham Yisrael. It wasn't that the Chacham Yisrael said there's no algebra, or there's no grammar, or there's no music, there's no art. That was not the machlokes. The machlokes was, is it an end in itself? Is everything rooted in the thing in itself? Or is lashkichim Torah secha, lavir mechuker etzanecha, that there's a Torah secha, there's something that's transcendent. Do you study the science for the science of the sake, or you're saying the science, yes, you could be a great scientist, but the root of the science comes from the Chacham Seliki, the divine wisdom, the nekuda of Kol Masha Baruch Lami Lebara L'Chvayde. That's the nekuda that comes, the 7 that comes before the 8th. Now,
You have a lot of trouble making that case with the Platonic ideas.
with what? With who?
With the Platonic ideas.
Yeah, I didn't say that. I said not Plato. I said from Aristotle forward. Plato is another sugya b'chal. The Zohar says that it's that the pre-Aristotelian philosophers is very close to the Torah. Oil. That the Torah says that Sheba Mum is actually the pre-Aristotelian philosophers. That's what Yosef Igas writes in Shemen Mum Akanon. So okay, that's a different chachma. We're talking about the chachma of science. Let's stay focused, and we'll have shilas. Now, so we see that Chazal see Torah, and this was again says clearly in the Dvarim Rabbah, that the Torah is nimshal l'Shemen. Torah Chachma in general is connected to Shemen. The Gemara says, you should turn towards south because that's what the menorah is. The Shemen is a menorah. The Gemara says that Haroya Shemen Zayis b'chaloim yitzapel l'moyer sheb'Torah. If you see olive oil, you're going to have wisdom. The Gemara says in Brachas, there's a Mishnah that says that the Kua is alpha l'Shemen. There's a place Tekoa that they were smart in Tekoa. Why? Because they ate Shemen, they drank Shemen, or they had Shemen. So we see that Shemen is connected to Chachma. Now, there's a Zohar Chodesh in Parshas Noach. The Zohar Chodesh writes like this. The Zohar writes that the Yoina, which clearly you see the word Yoina has Yavon in its letters, right? Yud Vav Nun. That the Yoina says Bola Eser V'Hinei Alazayis Tarf B'Fiyah. The Yoina comes and has a Alazayis. So the Zohar says that's Golos Yavon. That La'es Erev is Golos Yavon because it says Choshech Al Pnei HaToim. The Medrash Rabbah says in Bereshis Choshech Al Pnei HaToim is Golos Yavon. Shechishku Eneim Shel Yisrael, that Choshech is connected to Yavon. And it says Allah Zayis, that Amala, that the Zayis, that the Yavon, the Yoina was not able to return with this Allah Zayis, Klal Yisrael got lost, and this is the Zayis, this Allah Zayis is what we light the Chanukah menorah, and this gives us our redemption. Now through that we have the Gula, through this Allah Zayis, through this olive oil. Okay, so we see that from the Zohar Chodesh that Yavon is connected to Zayis. Allah Zayis. In Chazal, if you look a little bit more closely, the way in Midrash Chazal, when Midrash Chazal say that the Torah is nimshalu to what? It doesn't say it's nimshalu to the Zayis. It says it's nimshalu to the Shemen. So there's a Shemen aspect from it, there's the oil, and there's actually the olive. And we know clearly that the two separate things, even though one comes from the next. So Chachmas Yavon is connected to the Zayis, and Chachmas Yisrael is connected to the Shemen.
Zayis makes you forget.
Wait a second. Now. Yes, okay, we'll have to say that now already. Because the Gemara says in Hayris, Gemara says in Christus, the Gemara says that Arogel Bezeisim, that someone that's Arogel, 5 things create forgetfulness, if you eat the heart of an animal, etc. One of the things if you eat Zeisim, and the Gemara says, but that if you eat olive oil, that it's good for Zakar, and you have good memory. Okay. Now, Zayis, you'll see, Zayis, the Chazal say, Zayis is mitchilase mar, v'soife masak. Zayis starts at the beginning, it's bitter, and then it's masak. What does it mean at the beginning, it's bitter? It means when it's still a Zayis, it's considered something that's bitter. That's why Allah Tarif B'fiyah, the Gemara says in Erevin that the Yoina says Yehi Mezanoisai Merurin B'Yad Hashem. It should be, but because he's holding the zayis and he's holding actually the olive in his mouth and in her mouth, whatever the Yoina is, and he's saying that it's better to have bitter from your hands than sweet from another hands. So zayis is connected to the mar aspect, and the shemen is already connected to the masik, to the sweet. Now let's think of something about Chanukah. Something very interesting about the miracle of Chanukah. The Chazal tell us that they found a jug of oil, and this jug of oil lasted for 8 days. It doesn't say that they found the shemen, that they found the pure zayis. It says that they found pure oil. How was the oil on the second day produced? Normally, the way oil is produced, you produce the oil from the zayis. The zayis, the mar, produces the masik. But in Chanukah, what produced the oil? The oil itself. The masik produced the masik. The shemen was misraba into more shemen. However you understand the miracle, an everyday new miracle, new oil, but it wasn't that the olive itself gave off enough oil for 8 days. A small olive gave, but the shemen itself produced shemen. Which means that it's more connected to the idea of the shemen aspect of it, not to the zayis aspect of it. Why? Because shemen, the zayis is connected to the davar mar, the zayis is connected to the bitter, the zayis is connected to the shikha, the zayis is connected to something that's the choshech. Shikha is lashon choshech, is connected to something that's forgetfulness. And the oil is dafka connected to something that's masik. The oil is dafka the thing that's oil l'mayla, and that's going to be the chilik dak between these two ideas, between Chachmas Yavan and Chachmas Yisrael. Chachmas Yavan is that you're starting off with a principle that it's choshech, which means that it's a zayis, it's choshech. Okay, the world is, and now you're trying to extricate from this choshech, from this darkness, or from this observation, whatever you're looking at, you're trying to find a pattern, you're trying to find the grammar, the geometry, you're trying to find some light, you're trying to get from this choshech, you're trying to get light. That's the nature of the world. First is vayi'er, vayi'boiker. First is choshech, and then is or. You start off with a complexity, we start off with an uncertainty, and then you delve deeper into the wisdom to try to find a light or understanding to draw out, and you draw that out from that place itself, from the choshech itself. The principle of Torah, which is Chacham Yisrael, which is the idea of Chanukah, connected to the Echad, the principle of the one that comes before the seven, is that we start off already there's an oil. In principle, we say, I'm starting already, I believe that there's already a light, there's already a wisdom. And now I'm trying to find that wisdom in the things that I'm looking for. So it's not that I'm trying to go from the choshech into the oil. I'm starting off with an oil, and the oil is megala into the choshech. That's when Kachim is alayla hacharayim. In Kachim, the laws of holiness, it's the layla follows the day, which means the oil is drawn into the choshech, and that's the same principle of the nekuda, the one, the nekuda that's drawn into the seven. So superficially, if you look at two people both involved in the wisdoms of the world and the wisdoms of the world, they look like they can be doing the exact same thing. One is studying science, the other person is studying science. One's studying grammar, the other person is studying grammar. But that's the very darkest difference between whether you're connected to the shemen or you're connected to the oil, or whether you're connected to the nekuda that is oil l'mayla, and then it says that's from fafeya, and that is drawn down into all these seven wisdoms, and therefore I'm coming from the nekuda that's oil, and now I'm trying to find the oil in this choshech. Or I'm starting from the opposite. I'm starting, no, there's a zayis, it's dark, it's hard, it's mar, and I'm trying to excavate and try to find some oil in that choshech. And that's the nekuda of Chanukah. That's the real in-depth argument between the Greeks and what they wanted, like Shichem Torah Secha, and what Klal Yisrael was able to find through that jug of oil to connect ourselves to the higher. And that's where Chanukah is dafka with Shemen. And the miracle had to be dafka with Shemen and the menorah, because they're all symbolic of the different types of wisdoms. But the wisdom that comes from the Shemen, which is the Nekuda, that comes the Aleph, that comes before the Zion. This is what I want to say.
I'm wondering if you can continue the correspondence and say something about that duality with regard to Torah Shemet Tzav and Torah Shebal Peh.
That's exactly that's exactly the point. Okay, that's already we have to go further. The whole idea of Torah Shabbat goes like this. Torah Shabbat is Gilul Umayla. It's revealed light. Torah Shabbat is Am Cholchel V'Choshech V'Rov Gadol. That's the Tanchuma said Noach, right? That you're going in darkness and then you're trying to find, then you go to the Choshech. But Leka Midul Loy Remiza Be'eraisa. You're starting with a principle that I'm trying to figure out in Torah Shabbat where it's coming from. But I'm starting with a principle, the Leka Midul Loy Remiza Be'eraisa. Really, the marker of that is the oil in Torah Shabbat. Right? That's where I'm coming from. And now I'm going to find, in this Choshech, I'm trying to find, and that's, remember the story of Rabbi Akiva, when Moshe Rabbeinu comes to the bed of Rabbi Akiva, and he's upset. And the Gemara says that Moshe, Chol Shadaita, the Moshe, when he saw that Rabbi Akiva was doyer, Kisu Shalachas, and Moshe was Chol Shadaita. And then they asked they asked Moshe Rabbeinu, where do you learn from this? Allah Moshe Sini, Rabbi Akiva was a piece. So the Halakha Ruzna asked the Shaila, and Moshe Rabbeinu is such a little child, that he sees Rabbi Akiva as doyer, and Chol Shadaita. Why? Because he was smarter than him. So he was smarter than him. So you should say, wow, look at my grandchildren, they're smarter than me. I think a father would take pride. Chol Shadaita, Moshe was upset. So really, the original says that what really Chol Shadaita means, that Rabbi Akiva, Moshe was afraid that Rabbi Akiva was so involved in his head, so in his genius and his ingenuity, and of creating new revelations of Torah, that he was not still connected to the principle of the oil of Torah Shabbat. That's what was his problem. When he says that it's Allah Moshe Sini, it's okay, fine, do whatever you want. You can go fly. But if you're tied to the oil of the Torah Shabbat that comes before, then you're always directed, and that's your principle. That's your guiding principle. How you're based, right. How you're living.
It's Kilu Misrabit, well, also by the way.
It's Kilu Mishab Mishemen.
Yeah.
It's Shemen Mishemen.
Yeah. Or Oil Me'alea.
Oil Me'alea. Correct.
It's as if it is coming from itself.
Exactly. And it's coming from that pure place that's transcendent. It's not coming from something that's something that's bitter and dark, and you're trying to, in other words, in the first one, you're actually creating it. You're creating new light because you can't find the light. Here, your principal foundation is that there's oil here. I don't see the oil. Okay, so dig deep enough, you'll find the oil. The principle is that there's Kvod Shemayim. There's a kavanah here. That the Eibusher created the world for a kavanah. I don't see kavanah, the world looks random. Okay, so figure it out what the kavanah is. But the principle is that the world, there's an akudah that came before the Bria that says the world has an intention. Hashem says, this is what I want for my creation. I'm going to give you 7. That's going to be the place of all your life. And I want you to make sure that you're drawing in the echad into the 7 constantly. If it's in Torah, it's in life, it's in relationships, whatever you are, we have to remember there's an akudah of the ches that comes before the aleph. Then the aleph that comes before the zayin.
What's the connection to Permeates Torah? Permeates Torah is oil.
That's the vart. The Permeates Torah is saying it's not that it's that what this is Dr. Kunta Yonash. What does he say? He says that the idea of Permeates Torah is that it's not something that's separate. It's not pshat, remez, drush, soit, chassidus. It's the nekuda, it's the echad that's noiveya into all the 7. That's the word. It's the Shemen is mefafeya b'chol davar. It's the one that's mefafeya in everything. So it's the deepest nekuda of every single nekuda.
There's also the characteristics of Shemen. The character of Shemen is it comes from b'fnim hazayis. It comes from Permeates.
So that's another nekuda. There's another nekuda. But the Rebbe over there says that doesn't mean anything. You saw that letter? It says because yain actually becomes older and actually it becomes more valuable. But he says, but Shemen, look, there's a marker there. 7 doesn't do it. So there's no value of the Shemen being stored. It's nifrod, but he says there's no value that is sitting there for longer. Correct. That's the whole idea of Shemen.
Could you maybe try to answer the question of why we light on the 24th?
Oh, so I think Yesh Loimar. After we said L'chaim, it made a little more sense. But now, I think Yesh Loimar, what we're trying to say is that because in Chanukah, the whole of Vart is in Chanukah, we're trying to connect to the Nekudah that comes before. So the Chazal created a situation where, like I said, it's not halachically answering the question. It's giving us a concept. We're saying we're actually going to light now menorahs, but really we're actually connected to something that comes before. And that's the before. Even before it starts, there's oil. We're just continuing that oil into Imam Sheikh.
Maybe it was the first day world was created. It was created before everything else.
No, so what are you saying? So what?
Light on
Yeah, it was
day,
right.
Before the Miracle and other stuff.
So you're connected to the oil. Okay, yeah. Okay. What's that? It's not halacha. I'm not saying it's halachic answer. Halachically, you're probably lighting because it's nimshach anyway. It's till Chanukah. You have to light enough. You have to have enough oil that it will actually enter Chanukah. So it's like you're making a chana. You could say it's mitzvah sheyudaluk, sheyinadlik. You can come up with a lot of different perushim that maybe taki the mitzvahs to hadlaka, but only. Hadlaka is a mitzvah is not really hadlaka is a mitzvah. We learned from the Alter Rebbe over there in the Kuntas Achron that hadlaka on Shabbos, even though you say the mitzvah is lahadik shel Shabbos kodesh, the Alter Rebbe says the mitzvah is shiyud daluk. Even though you make the bracha lahadik, because it's like the process to get the daluk is lahadik.
Well, anyway, he said it's the Chassidim who light it.
Exactly. So Chassidim it works. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Because because Chanukah is the revelation of Chanukah is Torah Sheba'al Peh. That was the revelation of Torah Sheba'al Peh. That's the first Yom Tov that we celebrate Torah Sheba'al Peh, and Torah Sheba'al Peh is connected to the Nekudah, the one that comes into the seven. And the whole argument between the Greeks and Chacham Yisrael is this point.
So
that's
do we learn somewhere that that's the structure of it, or is that next to the meaning?
I'll tell you, we have 8 days, right? And there's even an opinion of Beis Shammai that we actually start from the 8. You go 8, 7, 6, which means there's already an idea that you start from the concept of 8, which means you're starting already from that there's an 8. Then you go to 7, 6, 5, you bring it down all the way down into the other things.
Also, Shemen is in Shemen.
We said that.
Oh, I didn't say that.
Chashmonoi, Shemen, Shmoina, it's all the same words, correct. And that's the definition of Shmoina. That's the definition of Shemen, that it rises. You understand? The Nekudah is that not that it rises in a way that it's detached. It rises above, but it seeps into everything else. That's the Nekudah. It's the echad that seeps into the Shiva.
So the two related questions.
Yeah.
Why are that structured the other way? What does that mean? And also, the Shemen.
No, that's not a question for now. That you have to ask on Shminat Says. We'll talk about that. Now we're talking about Chanukah. So
For this, for now, you said that the Shemen, it's like it starts from Shemen.
Yeah.
But the Shemen as we actually experience it comes from.
But on Chanukah, there was a special thing that the Shemen came from Shemen.
Well, that Shemen came from Zion. I'm only asking if you said that the notion is that it all.
But on Chanukah, if you think about Chanukah, and you came into the Beis Hamikdash, we're not talking about Zayis. We're talking about Shemen. And this little Shemen produced more Shemen. Because the same miracle could have happened that they found a pure Zayis, they squeezed and they had oil.
I'm just trying to figure out if I love the connection with, that's before creation and then the seven of creation.
Yeah.
If you rewind it, you have to say, well, where did that Shemen come from? It actually came from Zion. So do we conceive the same way that even though we think creation, already there was, the Shemen of the Or of Hashem before.
Yes, that's what he was saying. No, that's what he's saying. In other words, that's a very good point. In other words, the Zayis represents, let's say, the world. We're saying Teva. We're saying that really Teva is predicated on a miracle. That the whole Teva is actually, there is Teva. When we should study Teva, we should learn Teva, we should appreciate Teva, but we should just know that Teva, the whole structure of 7, is based on a foundation of transcendence that comes before it.
What I'm asking is, the miracle is not that the Shemen gave you, no, the miracle is that the Shemen made more Shemen.
Correct.
What I'm asking is, when we then apply that as a metaphor for creation, is there something to be said for what the Zayit is? Right? We won't talk about the Zayit like you're saying, I'm talking about. But if we're honest, the Shemen, the miracle Shemen came. We didn't say there was a miracle Shemen and also they discovered that from nowhere, right?
No, I understand.
Shemen itself didn't come from Zion.
But I don't understand the Shaila. Explain the Shaila. What's the Shaila? The Shaila is...
The Shaila is if the notion that the Shemen represents that Shemen created more Shemen and the creation by Hashem, or like that the Shemen of Hashem creates
more Shemen. Yeah.
Still, in the Chanukah story, that first miracle Shemen did come from Zion.
Of course it came from Zion.
So my question is do we then conceive even of the Shem, maybe problematic question, but do we conceive of a Shem, even the Shemen of the Shem that comes before creation, as having come from a Zayis, that we don't, that's like before the story, right? The story of creation is there's Shemen and there's more Shemen, just like but that Shemen came from a Zayis.
But the Shemen is only a metaphor. The Shemen is a mushal for something that is beyond something and also seeps into everything else. And that's a metaphor for the whole structure of creation, which is there's Hashem Echad and the Kavanas Habriya and the Kavod Shemayim that's revealed in the structure of creation. That's not real Zayas or Shemen, just a concept. We're just using Shemen as a metaphor to understand what that is, that structure.
One thing that you said on the first rebellion night
Yeah.
that answers one of your questions, maybe
Yeah.
on that one, is that going back to Torah Shval Pet thing, is that because Hanukkah is this like holiday that is mamish from us, it's like it has no makor, it's totally from us, and everything is, there's no mikra, it's all Torah Shval Pet. So it's like a mirroring of like that, like Ratzon Hashem, but like from Lamata.
Right, it's an inverse. Right.
So it's like.
What time? Okay.
9:30.
Right. We're going to daven Maariv?
Yeah.